I trusted my son with my heart, my home, my life, only to find his lies carved deeper than any knife could reach. For decades, I believed the stories people told me, from tearful library patrons to my own flesh and blood, but Ryan's tale of love and care was the cruelest of all, a trap to steal everything I'd built. My name is Eleanor Sullivan, and this is the story of how I lost my son but found the strength to take back my future. Welcome to Breed, where we unravel raw, gripping stories of betrayal and triumph every single day. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to join our community and never miss a tale. Now let's step into my world. At 68, I was a widow living a quiet life in a Seattle suburb, where the rain painted the streets silver and the air smelled of cedar and coffee. My cozy craftsman home in Redmond was my sanctuary, its shelves groaning with books from my 30-year career as a librarian. After my husband, Paul, died of a heart attack 20 years ago, I poured myself into raising our son, Ryan, and tending my garden of roses and memories. My days were simple but full, volunteering at the Redmond Library, reading to wide-eyed kids, and sipping tea by my fireplace. Paul's old poetry collection open on my lap. I wasn't rich, but I was content with a paid-off house and savings from years of careful scrimping. Ryan was my pride, my everything. I'd worked extra shifts at the library, skipped vacations, and dipped into my savings to send him to Stanford, where he studied computer science. Now 40, he was a tech entrepreneur in Seattle, married to Vanessa, a sharp-eyed marketing consultant. His startup, Sullivan Tech, was struggling, but Ryan always brushed it off with a charming grin. "It's just a rough patch, Mom," he'd say. His blue eyes, so like Paul's, sparkling with confidence. I believed him, just as I'd believed his childhood promises to take care of you someday. Vanessa, though, was colder, her smiles never reaching her eyes. "You should sell this place, Eleanor," she'd say, eyeing my home's oak floors. "It's too much for you alone." I'd laugh, deflecting, but her words left a chill, like a draft in a room I couldn't find. Lately, Ryan had been different, distant, distracted. His visits were rushed, his calls brief. "Mom, you're forgetting things," he said one rainy afternoon, sitting at my kitchen table. "You left the stove on last week, and you couldn't find your keys yesterday." I frowned, puzzled. The stove incident was a fluke. I'd been distracted by a phone call, and the keys were in my coat pocket. But Ryan's concern seemed genuine, his voice soft. "Vanessa and I think you should move in with us. Our apartment's got a spare room, and we can keep an eye on you." "You're not getting younger, Mom." His words stung, but I trusted him. I'd always trusted him. At the library, I'd solved mysteries for patrons, lost books, forgotten authors, but I never questioned Ryan's love. Maybe I was slipping, I thought. The headaches I'd had lately, the occasional misplaced glasses, could they mean something worse? "I don't want to be a burden," I said, my voice wavering. Ryan took my hand, his grip warm. "You're never a burden, Mom. Let us take care of you, like you did for me." Vanessa, standing by the sink, nodded, her lips tight. "It's for your health, Eleanor." I agreed, my heart heavy but grateful. I packed a suitcase, leaving my home in the care of a neighbor, intending to return once I felt better. Ryan's downtown Seattle apartment was sleek. All glass and chrome, but it felt sterile, my books and quilts shoved into a corner of the guest room. Vanessa's rules were strict: no cooking, no rearranging, to keep things safe for you. Ryan was often at work, leaving me with Vanessa's sharp glances and vague comments about my condition. I missed my garden, my library, my freedom, but I told myself this was temporary. A way to stay close to my son. A week after moving in, I found a bank statement on Ryan's desk while looking for a pen. My name was on it, but the numbers didn't add up. A $150,000 withdrawal from my savings account, dated the day I'd moved in. My heart raced, the paper trembling in my hands. I hadn't touched that account in years. It was my safety net, built from Paul's life insurance and my librarian's salary. The withdrawal was wired to Sullivan Tech LLC, Ryan's company. I stared at the statement, my mind spinning. A mistake, surely. Ryan couldn't do this. But then I remembered Vanessa's insistence I move in. Ryan's talk of my forgetfulness. Was this why they wanted me here under their thumb? I slipped the statement back onto the desk, my hands shaking like they did when I cataloged fragile manuscripts. I wanted to call Ryan to demand answers, but something stopped me, the librarian in me trained to seek facts before conclusions. I needed proof, not panic. That night, I lay awake in the guest room, the city's hum seeping through the walls. Ryan's voice echoed in my mind, "We'll take care of you, Mom." But care didn't feel like this, it felt like a cage. I thought of Paul, his steady laugh, his love for Ryan. Had I missed something in my son, a greed I'd never seen? Or was I truly losing my mind, as they claimed? The next morning, Ryan announced I had a doctor's appointment. "We booked it for you," he said, his smile too bright. "Just to check on those memory issues." Vanessa nodded, handing me a coat. "It's for your own good, Eleanor." I smiled back, my heart pounding, but my mind was clear. I'd go to the doctor, but I'd watch, listen, and learn. If Ryan was hiding something, I'd find it, just as I'd found lost books for patrons. As I stepped into the rainy Seattle morning, the bank statement burned in my memory. This wasn't over. Whatever Ryan and Vanessa were planning, I wasn't the helpless old woman they thought. I was Eleanor Sullivan, and I was about to uncover the truth. The rain drummed against the windows of Ryan's downtown Seattle apartment, a relentless rhythm that matched the unease gnawing at my heart. That bank statement, $150,000 siphoned from my savings to Sullivan Tech LLC, sat like a stone in my mind, heavy and undeniable. I'd moved into my son's home, trusting his concern for my health, believing his story of care. But now, every glance from Vanessa, every hurried word from Ryan, felt like a page torn from a book I didn't understand. I was Eleanor Sullivan, a librarian who'd spent decades finding answers in dusty tomes, and I wouldn't let my own story end in confusion. If Ryan and Vanessa were hiding something, I'd uncover it, piece by piece, before their lies unraveled me completely. Life in their apartment was suffocating. My books were stacked in a corner, my quilts folded away, as if my presence was an inconvenience to be minimized. Vanessa's rules tightened daily. Don't touch the thermostat. Don't leave dishes in the sink. For your safety, Eleanor. Ryan was rarely home, his days swallowed by Sullivan Tech. But when he was, his smiles felt rehearsed, his concern laced with impatience. "Mom, you need to rest," he'd say, guiding me to the guest room like I was a fragile artifact. I wanted to argue, to tell him I felt fine, but the headaches I'd mentioned in passing had become his weapon, twisted into proof I was slipping. The doctor's appointment Ryan had arranged loomed like a test I hadn't studied for. That morning, Vanessa drove me to a sleek clinic in Belltown, her silence colder than the Seattle drizzle. The doctor, a young man named Dr. Patel, greeted us with a clipboard and a frown. "Mrs. Sullivan, your son's concerned about memory issues," he said, barely glancing at me. "He's reported forgetfulness, confusion, even disorientation." I blinked, stunned. Disorientation? I'd misplaced my glasses once, left a kettle on for a moment, hardly a crisis. But Ryan had painted a picture of a failing mind, and Dr. Patel was buying it. "Ryan's exaggerating," I said, my voice firm. "I'm tired, maybe, but I'm not confused." Vanessa cut in, her tone smooth. "Eleanor, you don't always notice it. We're just trying to help." Dr. Patel nodded, scribbling notes. After a brief exam, checking my reflexes, asking me to recall a list of words, he delivered his verdict. "I suspect early dementia," he said, handing me a prescription for medication. "We'll start treatment and monitor you closely." My stomach dropped. Dementia? The word felt like a sentence, locking me into a future I didn't recognize. I took the prescription, my hands trembling. But my librarian's instinct kicked in. I needed facts, not assumptions. "Can I see my medical records?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. Dr. Patel hesitated, glancing at Vanessa, then nodded. "I'll have them sent to you." Back in the apartment, I hid the prescription in my suitcase, unwilling to swallow pills for a disease I didn't believe I had. Vanessa's eyes followed me, sharp as a hawk's. "You'll thank us later, Eleanor," she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. I nodded, playing along, but my mind was racing. The bank statement, Ryan's insistence on my illness, Vanessa's control, it was all connected, a story I was starting to read. That night, I waited until they were asleep, then crept to Ryan's desk. The bank statement was gone, but I found another, buried under papers. Another $50,000 withdrawn, again to Sullivan Tech. My savings, once $300,000, were nearly halved. My breath caught, anger flaring like a match. This wasn't a mistake, it was theft. I needed more evidence. The next day, I called the library, pretending to check my volunteer schedule, and spoke to Jenny, a young volunteer who'd always been kind. "Jenny, can you do me a favor?" I asked, keeping my voice low. "Look up Sullivan Tech's public filings online. I need to know what Ryan's doing." Jenny, sensing my urgency, promised to email me discreetly. By evening, her message arrived. Sullivan Tech was bleeding money, its latest app failing to launch, investors pulling out. Ryan was desperate, funneling my cash, to keep it afloat. The pieces clicked. My illness was a way to control me, to justify draining my accounts while I was too confused to notice. The medical records arrived 2 days later, delivered to Ryan's apartment while he and Vanessa were out. I tore open the envelope, my heart pounding. The report was sparse, no MRI, no cognitive tests, just Dr. Patel's notes based on family reports from Ryan. No evidence of dementia, no abnormal findings. My headaches were likely stress, the report said, not a neurological decline. I clutched the pages, relief warring with rage. I wasn't sick. Ryan had lied, Vanessa had backed him, and Dr. Patel had either been fooled or bought. My own son had fabricated a disease to trap me, to steal my life savings for his failing dream. I confronted Ryan that evening, unable to hold back. He was in the kitchen, scrolling on his phone, Vanessa sipping wine nearby. "Ryan," I said, holding up the medical records, "why did you tell Dr. Patel I have dementia? There's no evidence, no tests. And why is $200,000 of my savings in your company?" My voice shook, but I stood tall. The librarian who'd faced down angry patrons and tight budgets. Ryan's face flickered, surprise, then calm. "Mom, you're confused again," he said, his voice soft, patronizing. "The doctor said you're not well. And the money? I'm investing it for you, for all of us. Sullivan Tech is about to take off." Vanessa chimed in, her eyes cold. "Eleanor, you're not thinking clearly. We're protecting you. That house of yours, it's too much. We're selling it to cover your care." "Care?" I snapped, my anger breaking free. "You're stealing from me, Ryan. This isn't care, it's theft." Ryan sighed, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Mom, don't make this hard. You need us. Without us, you'd be in a nursing home." Vanessa's smile was a blade. "Be reasonable, Eleanor. Or we'll have to make decisions for you." I backed away, my heart pounding, and retreated to the guest room. Their words echoed, "Nursing home, decisions for you." They weren't just stealing my money. They were planning to strip my autonomy, to declare me incompetent. I sat on the bed, the medical records crumpled in my hands, and remembered Paul's voice reading poetry. Truth is the strongest sword. I needed more than truth now, I needed a plan. But then, as I hid the records under my mattress, I heard them in the living room. Their voices low but clear through the thin walls. "Once we get her declared incompetent," Ryan said, "we'll have full control. The house, the rest of her savings. Everything." Vanessa laughed, sharp and cruel. "She's halfway there, Ryan. Keep pushing the dementia angle and we're set." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just greed. It was a calculated betrayal, a plot to erase me. I sank to the floor, my hands shaking, but my mind was clear. They thought I was a fading old woman, easy to manipulate, but they didn't know Eleanor Sullivan. I'd solved mysteries for library patrons, rebuilt my life after Paul's death, raised Ryan alone. I wasn't done fighting. Tomorrow I'd find help, a lawyer, a friend, anyone who could help me turn their lies against them. Ryan had written me off, but he'd forgotten the first rule of stories. The underestimated always rise. As Seattle's rain fell outside, I made a vow. "You've taken enough, Ryan. This story ends with me." The Seattle rain fell in sheets outside Ryan's apartment, a gray curtain that mirrored the storm inside me. Ryan and Vanessa's whispered plan to declare me incompetent and seize my home echoed like a cruel refrain, each word a fresh wound. My son, the boy I'd raised through sleepless nights and endless sacrifices, had spun a web of lies, painting me as a frail, fading woman to steal my savings for his failing startup. The medical records, tucked under my mattress, proved I wasn't sick, and the bank statements, burned into my memory, showed $200,000 of my life's work funneled to Sullivan Tech. I was Eleanor Sullivan, a librarian who'd spent decades finding truths in forgotten pages, and I wouldn't let my story end as their victim. As I sat in the guest room, the city's hum a distant pulse. I vowed to fight back, not with tears or rage, but with the quiet cunning of a woman who'd read every plot twist life could offer. Morning brought a deceptive calm. Ryan was at his office. Vanessa at a meeting, leaving me alone in their sterile apartment. My hands shook as I dialed Jenny, the library volunteer who'd sent me Sullivan Tech's filings. Jenny, I whispered, I need another favor. Can you find a lawyer who handles fraud? Someone discreet. Jenny's voice was soft but firm. My Aunt Carla's a retired attorney, Eleanor. She's sharp and hates liars. I'll text you her number. I thanked her, my heart racing. Carla was a former library patron I'd helped years ago, tracking down obscure legal texts for her cases. If anyone could untangle Ryan's deceit, it was her. Carla met me at a coffee shop near the library, a cozy spot smelling of espresso and damp wool. Her silver hair and piercing eyes hadn't changed. Nor had her no-nonsense demeanor. Eleanor, you look like you've seen a ghost, she said, sliding into the booth. What's going on? I laid it all out, the fake dementia diagnosis, the stolen $200,000. Ryan's plan to sell my house, the overheard plot to declare me incompetent. I showed her the medical records and a photo of the bank statement I'd snapped with my phone. My voice cracked as I spoke of Ryan's betrayal, but Carla's steady gaze kept me grounded. This is fraud, plain and ugly, she said, her pen tapping the table. Ryan's used your trust to fund his sinking ship, and the dementia angle is a power grab. We can sue for theft and file a criminal complaint, but we need to protect what's left first. What's left? I asked, my stomach twisting. Carla's eyes softened. Your savings are nearly gone, $100,000 remains, and they'll target that next. But your house is worth $600,000, and there's something else. Did Paul ever mention an investment account? I frowned, confused. Paul had been a teacher, not a financier. He had some stocks, maybe, I said. I never touched them. Carla nodded. Good. I'll check. If they're intact, we'll transfer them and the house to a trust they can't touch. And we need evidence, more recordings, emails, anything showing intent. A trust. The idea sparked hope. A flicker in the dark. My house, with its rose garden and Paul's books, was my anchor. If I could save it, I could save myself. Carla drafted a plan. Move my assets to an irrevocable trust for a community library I dreamed of starting, secure the investment account, and gather proof of Ryan's lies. You'll need to play along, she warned. Act frail, confused, until we're ready to strike. Can you do that? I thought of Ryan's patronizing smile, Vanessa's cold threats. I can, I said, my voice steel. I've read enough stories to know how to play the fool. That afternoon, I called my neighbor, Mrs. Lee, who was watching my house. Any mail? I asked, casual but urgent. She mentioned a letter from an investment firm, unopened. Can you read it to me? I asked, my heart pounding. The letter confirmed Paul's old stocks, forgotten in a brokerage account, now worth $250. 000. My breath caught. Paul's quiet gift, untouched by Ryan's greed. I told Mrs. Lee to hold it, promising to visit soon. With Carla's help, I'd transfer the stocks and house to the trust, a legacy beyond Ryan's reach. But Ryan escalated first. That weekend, he invited me to a family barbecue at his cousin Lisa's house. A rare gathering of aunts and uncles. I suspected a trap, but went, my phone set to record in my purse. At Lisa's backyard, Ryan played the devoted son, loud enough for all to hear. Mom's not doing well, he said, his arm around me. She's forgetting things, getting confused. Vanessa and I are moving her to a care facility soon. Vanessa nodded, her eyes glinting. It's for her safety, she added as relatives murmured sympathy. My Aunt Clara frowned, but others bought the act, patting my hand like I was already gone. I played along, letting my voice waver, dropping a fork, mumbling about feeling tired. Ryan's smile widened, thinking he'd won. Later, Vanessa pulled me aside in Lisa's kitchen, her voice low. Eleanor, it's time to sign over the house. We've got a buyer ready, $600,000 cash. It'll pay for your care. She slid a document across the counter, a power of attorney form. My pulse raced, but I clutched my purse, the recorder capturing every word. I'll think about it, I said. My voice shaky but deliberate. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. Don't wait too long, Eleanor. We'll commit you if we have to. I nodded, retreating, my heart thundering. The recording was gold. Proof of their coercion. Back at the apartment, I emailed the file to Carla, who called immediately. "This is dynamite, Eleanor," she said. "We've got them for fraud and coercion. I'm transferring your assets tomorrow, house, stocks, the last $100,000. And I found something else. Sullivan Tech is holding an investor meeting next week. Ryan's pitching for a $2 million lifeline. If we move fast, we can hit them there." My mind raced. An investor meeting? Ryan's last chance to save his company, built on my stolen money. I thought of Jenny's email, detailing Sullivan Tech's collapse, failed apps, angry investors, a desperate Ryan. A plan formed, daring and dangerous. "Carla," I said, "can I buy his company? With the stocks?" Carla laughed, sharp and delighted. "You're a librarian, not a shark, but damn, Eleanor, I love it. The stocks give you leverage. Sullivan Tech's shares are dirt cheap, investors are bailing. We can buy a controlling stake quietly before the meeting. Ryan won't know until it's too late." I smiled, the first real smile in weeks. Ryan thought he'd written me out of his story, but I was about to rewrite the ending. That night, I lay awake, the rain a steady whisper. I thought of Paul, his poetry, his faith in Ryan. "I'm sorry, Paul," I whispered. "But our son's not the boy we raised." The pain was raw, but it fueled me. I wasn't just fighting for my money, I was fighting for my life, my legacy. The investor meeting was in 5 days. And I'd be there not as a victim, but as a force. Ryan and Vanessa thought they'd caged me, but they'd forgotten the librarian who'd solved mysteries, who'd rebuilt her world after loss. I hid my phone, now holding 2 recordings, and closed my eyes. Tomorrow I'd sign Carla's trust papers. Tomorrow I'd start buying Sullivan Tech. As the rain fell, I made a silent promise. "You've underestimated me, Ryan. This story's mine now." The Seattle skyline gleamed through the conference room's floor-to-ceiling windows. A glittering backdrop to the investor meeting where Ryan believed he'd save his crumbling empire. Sullivan Tech's logo glowed on a screen, and Ryan, in a crisp suit, stood at the podium, his charm dialed to full intensity. He thought this was his moment, his chance to secure a $2 million lifeline for his failing startup. But he didn't know I was coming, not as the frail, demented mother he'd painted, but as Eleanor Sullivan, the librarian who'd read his lies like an open book and turned the pages against him. My heart pounded like it did when I cataloged rare manuscripts, steady but alive with purpose. Today, I'd rewrite his story and reclaim mine. The past week had been a whirlwind of strategy. With Carla, my lawyer and former library patron, I transferred my house and Paul's $250,000 stock portfolio to an irrevocable trust for a community library, safe from Ryan's greed. The last $100,000 of my savings was secured. 2. A buffer for my future. But the real coup was Sullivan Tech itself. Using Paul's stocks, Carla had quietly bought up the company's shares as investors fled, securing a controlling stake for $200,000. Ryan's desperation had made his own company cheap, and now I owned it, or rather, the trust did. Carla had prepared legal documents to prove it, and my USB drive held the evidence of Ryan's fraud, medical records debunking my dementia, bank statements showing $200,000 stolen, and recordings of Vanessa's threats. Jenny, my library volunteer, had confirmed the meeting's time and place, and Carla stood by my side as we entered the sleek office tower, my purse heavy with truth. The conference room buzzed with investors, their faces a mix of skepticism and boredom. Ryan's pitch was in full swing, his voice smooth as he gestured to slides about revolutionary apps and market disruption. Vanessa sat in the front row, her red dress a sharp contrast to her cold smile, nodding like a loyal partner. I slipped into the back, Carla beside me, unnoticed in the crowd. My navy coat and scarf hid the fire inside me. The resolve forged through nights of pain and planning. Ryan's words washed over me, growth potential, strategic pivots, but I heard the lies beneath. The desperation of a man who'd built his dream on my stolen life. As Ryan clicked to his final slide, an investor raised a hand. "Your financials are shaky, Sullivan. How are you funding operations?" Ryan's smile didn't falter. "We've had strong private investments," he said, "including family support." Family support. My blood boiled. That was my $200,000, siphoned from my savings while he called me sick. I stood, my voice cutting through the room like a blade. "Actually, Ryan, Those investments were stolen from me. Heads turned, murmurs rippling. Ryan's face froze, his eyes locking on mine. "Mom," he stammered, his charm cracking. Vanessa whipped around, her smile vanishing. I walked to the front, Carla following. My steps steady despite the pounding in my chest. "I'm Eleanor Sullivan," I said, addressing the investors. "Ryan's mother. For months, he's claimed I have dementia, using a fake diagnosis to control me and steal my savings for this company. But I'm not sick, and I'm not silent." I plugged my USB drive into the projector, Carla handing me the remote. The screen lit up with my medical records, Dr. Patel's notes showing no dementia, only family reports from Ryan. Gasps rose as I clicked to the bank statements, $200,000 wired to Sullivan Tech. "This is my money," I said, my voice raw but strong. "Stolen without my consent while Ryan and his wife, Vanessa, pushed me to sell my home and accept a nursing home." I played the recording from Lisa's barbecue. Vanessa's voice chilling the room. "Sign the house over, or we'll commit you." Investors shifted, their faces hardening. Ryan's hands gripped the podium, his knuckles white. "Mom, you're confused." Ryan tried, his voice desperate. "You're not well. This is a misunderstanding." Vanessa stood, her voice shrill. "She's delusional. She needs help." But I clicked to the power of attorney form they'd pushed, the coercion clear. "I'm not delusional," I said, staring at Ryan. "You lied about my health, stole my savings, and planned to declare me incompetent. But you forgot who I am. I'm the woman who raised you, who rebuilt her life after Paul died. And I'm the woman who now owns your company." Carla stepped forward, her voice commanding. "As Eleanor's attorney, I confirm she's acquired a 51% stake in Sullivan Tech through a trust, using a stock portfolio Ryan didn't know existed. These documents prove her ownership." She held up legal papers, the trust seal glinting. Investors murmured, some pulling out phones, others glaring at Ryan. "Furthermore," Carla continued, "we filed civil and criminal charges for fraud, theft, and coercion. The authorities are on their way." The room erupted. An investor stood, slamming his laptop shut. "I'm out, Sullivan. This is a circus." Others followed, their briefcases snapping shut, their trust in Ryan gone. Ryan's face crumpled, his voice rising. "Mom, why are you doing this? I was building a future for us." Vanessa lunged toward me, her face twisted. "You're ruining everything, Eleanor." Carla blocked her, calm but firm. "Sit down, Mrs. Sullivan, or you'll make this worse." I looked at Ryan. The boy I'd loved, now a stranger undone by greed. "You built nothing," I said, my voice breaking but resolute. "You stole my life to prop up your lies. Sullivan Tech isn't yours anymore, it's mine. And I'll use it to help others, not hurt them. The trust would redirect the company's assets to fund the community library, a legacy for Seattle's readers, not Ryan's ego." A knock at the door silenced the room. 2 police officers entered, badges glinting. "Ryan Sullivan, Vanessa Sullivan, you're under arrest for fraud and theft," one said. Ryan's eyes widened, his voice a plea. "Mom, I'm sorry. Don't let them do this." Vanessa's scream echoed as handcuffs clicked, her composure shattered. "You can't take everything," she shrieked. But the officers led them out, Ryan's head bowed, Vanessa's curses fading down the hall. Carla touched my arm, her voice low. "You did it, Eleanor." I nodded, my throat tight. But the investors' eyes were on me, some shocked, others respectful. One, a woman in a gray suit, approached. "Mrs. Sullivan, I'd like to discuss the trust's plans for Sullivan Tech." "You've got my attention." I smiled faintly, exhausted but unbroken. The room emptied, leaving me with Carla and the weight of what I'd done. Ryan's final plea, "Mom, I'm sorry," rang in my ears. But it was too late. He'd chosen greed over love, and I'd chosen truth over pain. As we left the tower, Seattle's rain greeted us, cool and cleansing. I clutched my purse. The USB drive and legal papers inside, symbols of my victory. Ryan and Vanessa would face justice, but I'd face something harder. A future without my son. Yet I felt free. The librarian who'd solved her own mystery, who'd turned betrayal into triumph. The investor meeting was over, but my story wasn't. I'd lost Ryan, but I'd found myself, and that was worth more than any company. The rain-soaked streets of Seattle glistened under the streetlights as I left the Sullivan Tech investor meeting. The weight of my victory settling into my bones. I'd stood before Ryan, my son, and Vanessa, his wife. exposing their lies with medical records and bank statements, shattering their facade of care with the truth of their theft. I'd bought Ryan's failing company out from under him, using Paul's forgotten stocks to seize control through a trust for a community library. As I walked away from that tower, Carla's steady presence beside me, I felt the ghost of my old self, the trusting mother, fade, replaced by Eleanor Sullivan, a woman who'd turned betrayal into triumph. But the road ahead wasn't just about justice. It was about rebuilding a life I'd nearly lost. 3 weeks later, I returned to my Redmond home, its rose garden damp and welcoming, its bookshelves waiting like old friends. The trust Carla had set up ensured the house was mine, untouchable by Ryan's greed. My remaining $100,000 savings and the income from Sullivan Tech's assets, now redirected to the library trust, gave me security. I unpacked my quilts, hung Paul's poetry collection by the fireplace, and let the familiar creak of the floorboards ground me. Ryan's photos stayed in a box, not out of spite, but because I needed space to heal. I wasn't the mother who'd raised him anymore. I was Eleanor, and that was enough. Ryan's trial came swiftly. The evidence Carla presented, forged bank transfers, fake medical reports, recorded threats, overwhelming. He was sentenced to 2 years for fraud and ordered to repay the $200,000 he'd stolen, but his bankruptcy left nothing to give. Sullivan Tech's assets were liquidated, its proceeds funding the library trust, while Ryan's dream dissolved into debt. Vanessa, facing lesser charges, fled Seattle after her release, leaving Ryan alone. A news report I caught on the radio one evening painted a grim picture. Ryan, once a tech golden boy, was now jobless, crashing on friends' couches, his charm worthless. I waited for guilt, for the ache of a mother's heart, but it didn't come. Ryan had chosen his path, and I'd chosen mine. I found peace in transforming my home into the Sullivan Community Library, a dream I'd nursed for years. With the trust's funds, I renovated the living room into a reading nook, the dining room into a study space, and the garage into a children's corner. Jenny, my library volunteer, helped organize book drives, and Mrs. Lee, my neighbor, donated her late husband's classics. The library opened on a rainy spring day, kids racing through the door, their laughter a balm to my soul. "Miss Eleanor, read to us," they'd beg, and I'd settle into an armchair, a picture book open, their wide eyes reminding me why I'd fought. Carla became a regular visitor, her sharp wit a comfort. "You turned a tech scam into a library," she said one afternoon, sipping tea in my kitchen. "Not bad for a librarian." I smiled, grateful for her guidance. My Aunt Clara, who'd believed Ryan's lies at the barbecue, called to apologize, her voice thick with regret. "I should have trusted you, Eleanor," she said. I forgave her. Knowing love could blind anyone, I'd been blind too. Jenny's aunt, Lisa, sent flowers for the library opening, and even the investor from the meeting, Ms. Harper, donated funds, impressed by the trust's mission. My new family wasn't blood, but it was real, built on respect, not deceit. One evening, I visited Paul's grave, a quiet plot under a cedar tree. The rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and clean. "I did it, Paul," I whispered, tracing his name on the stone. "I saved our legacy, but I lost Ryan." The words hurt, but they were true. I'd given Ryan everything, love, education, chances, but I couldn't give him integrity. I forgave myself for his choices, for the years I'd blamed myself for his distance. As I left, a star broke through the clouds, and I felt Paul's presence, steady as his poetry, telling me I was enough. A news update overheard at the library confirmed Ryan's downfall. He'd been spotted at a Seattle shelter, his Stanford degree useless, his future uncertain. The image stung, my son, broken by his own greed, but it didn't break me. I'd rebuilt my life, not for revenge, but for meaning. The Sullivan Community Library was my legacy, a haven for readers, dreamers, and survivors. Every book lent, every child's smile, was a victory Ryan couldn't touch. The lesson of my story isn't just about uncovering lies or winning battles, it's about knowing your worth and guarding it fiercely, even from those you love most. I trusted Ryan because he was my son, but I learned that love doesn't mean surrender. Your life, your dreams, your truth, they're yours to protect, no matter who tries to claim them. If you're holding on to a relationship that dims your light, let my story be your spark. Stand up, fight back, and build a legacy that's yours alone. If this story touched you, join us at Breed for more tales of courage and redemption. We share powerful stories every day, and we'd love you in our community. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and let's keep these stories alive. Thank you for listening, and now let me leave you with this. As I stood in the Sullivan Community Library surrounded by books and laughter, I thought of Ryan one last time, not with anger, but with release. He tried to steal my life, but he'd given me something greater. A chance to rediscover myself, to build a family of readers, to leave a mark that mattered. I picked up Paul's poetry book, its pages worn from years of love, and read a line aloud, "In truth we rise." The kids clapped, thinking it was for them, and I smiled, knowing it was for me. The librarian who'd solved her own mystery, the widow who'd survived loss, the mother who'd learned to let go. She was here, stronger than ever. And as Seattle's rain began again, soft against the windows, I knew I was home.